Hello everyone. So today we are going to discuss the next part of the lesson, that is plant tissues, and we have discussed plant tissue. There are two types, simple and complex, and we have also discussed about meristematic tissue and permanent tissue. So we are discussing permanent tissues, and permanent tissues we have already discussed simple permanent tissue, which are also called as the ground tissue. So today we are going to discuss conducting tissues. As it is clear from the name, conducting tissue means that they help in transport of some material. And we all know that in the plants, two types of materials are to be transported. One is water, other is food. So as far as water is concerned, it is transported by the tissue which is called as xylem, or we can say xylem is the tissue which help in transport of water, whereas food is transported with the help of phloem. So other words, we can say phloem is the tissue which help in transport of food. So xylem help in conduction of water and phloem conducts food. So because they help in conducting these material and taking them from one place to other place, so that is why they are also called as the conducting tissues. And we studied that complex tissue means a tissue which may be containing two or more than two different types of cells. In whatever other tissues which we have studied till now, there we saw that all the cells of the tissue, they are of same type. But in complex permanent tissues, what we will see that it consists of more than one type of cells. So complex permanent tissue is a tissue which consists of more than one type of cells. It is also called as conducting tissue because it helps in taking the material from one place to other place. In plants, there are two types of conducting tissue, xylem and phloem. Xylem help in conduction of water, phloem help in conduction of food. Let us first talk about xylem. Xylem is a tissue which consists of four different types of cells, which are called as tracheids, vessels, xylem fiber and xylem parenchyma. I hope you remember that when we discussed about ground tissue, then we discussed about three different types of tissues: parenchyma, collenchyma and sclerenchyma. So parenchyma, they are living cells. So that parenchyma which is associated with xylem, that is called as xylem parenchyma. And we also studied about collenchyma and sclerenchyma. So some sclerenchymatous tissue, they are also associated with the xylem. These are all dead cells because there we studied that the characteristic feature of sclerenchymatous tissue is that they have lignin in their wall and they are dead cells. These all three different types of cells which are present in xylem, they are dead cells and they have lignin present in their walls. That is the characteristic feature of sclerenchymatous tissue, right? So because they are made up of sclerenchymatous tissue, they consist of dead cells with lignin in their walls. And we studied that sclerenchymatous tissue, it helps in giving mechanical support to the plant. So that means all these three different types of tissues which are present in xylem, different types of cells which are present in xylem, it will be giving mechanical support to the plant. But it is also helping in conduction of water. So that means it will be having two main functions: giving support to the plant, giving strength to the plant, as well as it will conduct water. Main function of xylem is to conduct water. Now we know water has to be conducted from roots to all parts of plant. And we know that water is required in the leaves. Why? Because there they have to do photosynthesis, and during the photosynthesis water is required. So the tissue which help in water conduction from root to all parts of the plant, especially to the leaves, that tissue is called as xylem. Right? And it consists of four types of cells: tracheids, vessels, xylem fiber and xylem parenchyma. Out of this, xylem parenchyma is living, whereas all other three are dead, and they consist of cells which have lignin present in their walls. Now let us talk about some other characteristic features of tracheids. Tracheids are unicellular. Unicellular means they are made up of only one cell. Now if I have to draw a tracheid here, then they have tapering ends and they have small pits on them. Pits means that they have lignin present in their walls, but there are certain places where that lignin is not present. So because of that, that area in which lignin is not present, there the cell wall will be very thin. These cells are unicellular, means they are made up of only one cell, and they are grouped together like this. In high classes you will study that tracheids, they may have different types of pits, and because of different types of lignin, there are different arrangements seen on them. But to keep it simple, at this stage, first you remember that there are certain spaces where lignin is not present, and through those spaces water can be transported, water can be conducted. Whereas where there is heavy lignin present in the walls, then through that, because lignin, it will make the cell wall impermeable. So because of that, the conduction of water will not be present, will not be possible through that area. So such tissues which are called as xylem, they help in mainly conduction of water, and tracheids are those cells which are unicellular and elongated. Elongated means that they are long as compared to their width. Their length is more with tapering end. Tapering end means that they are narrow at the ends and thick in the center. Right? And these cells, they are placed one above the other, so they form a kind of bundle They are arranged in bundles. Right? Now let us talk about the second type of cells which are present. They are called as vessels. Vessels, they are formed of cells which are placed one above the other. Cells like this. And they are also heavily lignified. That means their wall is also thick. But in the wall, there may be certain places where lignin is thin. So they are also pitted. That means through them, water can be conducted through them. And the wall separating these cells, that is dissolved. That means because these cells, they are joined one above the other. So because this is one cell, this is the other cell, and the wall separating them is dissolved. So because of that, they form pipe-like structures. Right? And they have a wide lumen. Lumen we call the space inside the tube. If this is a tube, then this place which is present inside it, that is called as its lumen. So this is the lumen. As compared to tracheids, if you look at these cells, these are narrow, but they have comparatively wider lumen because their diameter is more, and because the end walls, they are dissolved. So because of that, you can just imagine that these are pipe-like structures. So through them, water can move upward. They are just like small capillaries, because of which water moves upward. The third type of tissue which is present is xylem fiber. So these are succellarenchymatous tissue which is attached with xylem. These are also elongated cells with thick wall. And the main function of these tissues is to provide support. It gives strength to the plant part. And xylem parenchyma, they are the tissues which are attached with xylem, and they are just like other parenchymatic cells. And we know that parenchymatous cells, they have nucleus in them and they have a lot of protoplasm in them. And the main function of this parenchymatous tissue is for storage of starch and resins. Resins, what are resins? Resins are liquid-like substances which are produced by the plants. This is the only tissue which is living in xylem. Right? Then we are going to study about the second type of tissue which is called as phloem. Xylem conducts water, whereas phloem conducts food. Now the difference between this is that water, it flows from root to other parts. Water doesn't flow back. Whereas food has to go up and down. So that means the food which is present in plant, that is to be conducted in bidirections. Here it was unidirectional flow, water going from root to other parts. But here food may have to go from roots to the leaves also, because sometimes, as we know, that reserve food is stored in the roots. But when the plant needs that food, then food has to go from roots to leaves. Whereas when photosynthesis is taking place, then food is being made in leaves, but maybe the plant is storing that food in roots. So in that case, food has to go from leaves to roots. So that means in case of phloem, the direction of flow of liquid which is flowing through the phloem, that is bidirectional. Now here water is being conducted, here food is being conducted. But as we all know that in plants, the material which is conducted from one place to another place, that is in form of fluid. The fluid which contains food, that is called as sap. Here we call it water, here we call it sap. What is sap? Sap is that fluid which contains more of sugars. I hope you remember that plants, they make their food by the process of photosynthesis, and during this sugars are made. And food is stored in the plants in the form of starch. So that means phloem is that conducting tissue which conduct food in bidirectional way. It has flow of sap, and sap is a liquid which contains more of sugars. Now as far as phloem is concerned, phloem consists of 4 types of tissues which are called as sieve tube, companion cells, phloem fiber, and phloem parenchyma. So these 4 types of cells, they are present in phloem. So because there are different types of cells present, so that is why phloem is also a complex tissue. Now let us first talk about sieve tube. Here also we saw that there is some tube-like structure which is called as vessel. In comparison to this, the sieve tube, it also is a tube-like structure. But here what we see that I will draw phloem here. This is xylem, and here I will draw phloem. It consists of cells which are thin in center and broad at the ends. Cells somewhat like this. And the other characteristic feature is that the wall which is separating these two cells, they have small holes in them, because of which sap which is present in this cell can flow to the neighboring cell. It can go upward as well as it can go downward. Here I have drawn arrow upward, but here sap can go upward as well as downward, and it can pass through the perforations which are present in the wall which is separating the cells. Here what did we see? That there is single lumen and there is no perforation, water can flow upward. But here what we see that in the wall which is separating these two cells, there are, if I draw it here, there are certain holes. Through these holes, sap can flow up and down. This structure or wall which is dividing, which is present at the place where two cells meet, that is called as sieve plate. Such sieve plates are not present here. Here we were having single lumen, but here the wall is present, but it is having perforations. Such kind of cells, they join end to end and they form tube-like structure, which is called as sieve tube. So that means they also have narrow lumen and they have sieve plates and bidirectional flow of sap. Attached to these sieve tube cells, there are certain elongated cells. Just as we were having cells here, similarly, there are certain elongated cells which are present in this, and they are living cells. And attached to them, there are fibers. Fibers are again elongated cells. So these cells which are present in between sieve tube and fibers, they are called as companion cells. So these are companion cells. Living cell attached to sieve tube. And besides them, there are long fibrous structures which are called as phloem fibers. Now, phloem fibers are very hard. Why? Because they are made up of succulent tissue cells, you can say. Very hard succulent cells. And these succulent cells, they provide strength and support. You must be knowing about jute. Jute is a plant from where you get jute fiber. So jute fiber is basically phloem fiber. It is so strong that you can make ropes or you can make gunny bags out of it. It is so strong, it has a lot of strength. So such kind of fibers which are attached to phloem, they are called as phloem fibers. And next to them lies parenchymatous tissue. So these parenchymatous cells which are attached to phloem, that is called as phloem parenchyma. So what did we see? In case of xylem, most of the cells are dead, whereas in phloem, many of the cells are living. Another characteristic difference, what did we see? Differences in xylem and phloem. One main difference is it conducts water and it conducts sap or food. Xylem conducts water in one direction. Phloem conducts food or sap in bidirectional. Then it is mostly dead cells, whereas here it is mostly living cells. Now another difference is how they are present, or what is the location of these tissues. In the previous lesson also I told you that the part of the plant where xylem and phloem is present, that is called as vascular bundle. Vascular bundle is the part of the plant where xylem and phloem is present. In vascular bundle, xylem is central. It is toward the central of vascular bundle. Whereas phloem is towards outside of vascular bundle. That means if this is the plant part and these are the vascular bundles, then xylem is toward the center and phloem is towards the outer side. Vascular bundles, they are arranged like this. That means location of xylem is toward the center and location of phloem is towards the outer side of the vascular bundle. So these are some of the differences between xylem and phloem. I hope you have understood both conducting tissues, xylem and phloem, as well as the differences between them. If there is any question, you are most welcome to ask.